Welcome to the One Mindful Minute, your very oasis of daily well being in the busy world. You may already know you have the power to transform your world, but have you fully tapped into it? In this podcast, I'll share how to unlock the power to enhance your life through the art of living well. With insightful interviews and guided practices, we'll uncover the secrets to inner calm and wellness. It is time to tune in and transform.
Hello, and welcome back to One Mindful Minute podcast. In this episode, I'd like to welcome my friend Pam here to finally join me after we have been discussing about getting on the podcast together, record together for maybe in the last few weeks now. And we've finally managed to make this happen on Easter Sunday, actually. So welcome, Pam.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation, Fawn. I'm thrilled to be here today.
Yay. So I'm gonna just let you introduce yourself, tell our listener a little bit of who you are and what your specialty, what do you do? How did you come into this journey of mindfulness or however you like to put this? I'll let you put it in your own words. How about that?
Thank you so much. Yes, my name is Pamela Baizas, and I wear many hats for, but for the purposes of this podcast, I'm going to focus specifically on the health and wellness space that I currently do, because I have a full-time job and I'm also a certified clinical hypnotherapist, and I'm also a wellness professional. I'm a certified wellness practitioner. And in that capacity, I'm able to assist clients who come to me for various reasons, for things that are coaching related, as well as healing services that they would like to get guidance on. So, what I do as a clinical hypnotherapist is that I help clients relieve them from their suffering, be it the the trauma that had been present in their life for many years, or be it wanting to change habits or eliminate habits, that sort of thing. For coaching services, I also do guide a lot of my clients depending on the needs that they came to me with, but typically it's wellness related. So I help them with anything that they may need in terms of becoming a better person or a better individual. So, in a nutshell, what I do is, like I said, I wear multiple hats. I'm a coach. I also assist others with their healing journeys. And I also do energy work on top of that. That is basically my entry into the health and wellness space, the alternative and holistic health services field. But
A well-rounded professional individual.
yes, thank you. So that is the bulk of what I do in my business, but not a lot of people know that I also work full time. I've been working for the federal government for almost 19 years now. I still do work full time, but I really am passionate about this health and wellness field that I'm involved in because I have experienced the power myself of being a client multiple times in multiple different capacities. And so I am here to also lead others and guide others towards their own healing journeys.
So obviously you have had the experience that have led you to do what you do today. So maybe if you don't mind, share with us a little bit of where were you prior to the wellness journey, the mindfulness journey, and where you are now.
Yeah, I think that would be a good start to talk about. You always want to know, how did someone get started, right, on the path they're currently on? And I like to go back a little bit to, take you on a journey where I was and
Totally,
where I
yes.
am now, which is usually what really is the the catalyst for someone to be on a current path, right? So let's go back in time. So
What a memory lane a little bit.
yes, I would be happy to do that. So I was born and raised in the Philippines, and I came to America at about late teens. I was 18 at the time. So when I came to America, I didn't know anybody. I had to make new friends all over again. Half of my family came with me, and then the rest stayed in the Philippines. But it was a pretty struggle for me for a number of years when I came to America. And I thought it was going to be the land of opportunities, the land of honey, or whatever they call it, the land of dreams and possibilities. Well, to tell you the truth, it was such a struggle the first few years. And I began working hard, towards what I thought was the key to starting a new life in a new country, right? So I finished my college here, started working multiple jobs. I went on with my life like normal people would do, right? Well, you're starting a new life in a new country. And then I had met my husband. I got married, started a family. I have two kids now. I went on with my life, but when I was in my mid to late 30s, I started to ask very different questions about myself. And so some people would call this the midlife crisis or spiritual awakening or whatever term is applicable to them. But to me, it was a very critical time in my life where the past trauma I have experienced early on started rising up to the surface. I wasn't even aware of those, but it started to come up. And I started to ask specific questions about myself, the deeper questions, such as who am I? Why am I here? What's my life purpose? What are my gifts? What am I supposed to leave as a legacy when I'm no longer here? A lot of those questions I have never even asked myself before. It was one of those things where I believe I was onto something, but also a lot of my past wounding were coming up. So I took a lot of time isolating myself, not completely. I am a very social person, but I had turned inwards in terms of answering those questions. And at the same time, I was navigating a lot of the things that were coming up, past hurts, wounding, past trauma. And I didn't know how to navigate those all at the same time. But just to go back a little bit in time, why I had all of those coming up is because I I I grew up in a home where abuse was present, where my parents' relationship was abusive in nature. There was a lot of verbal abuse, there was some physical abuse. And as a child witnessing something like that, it was too big for me to process at the time. So it was coming up to me as I matured when I was having that midlife crisis or spiritual awakening at the same time. A lot of those were coming up. At the same time, I also suffered a lot of emotional abuse from my mother. And so it came to a point where in my early 20s to mid 20s, I was contemplating suicide. So I was having suicidal thoughts during that very dark time of my life where I didn't want to be here anymore. And I was thinking to myself, if I'm gone, perhaps the abuse will stop. It was that bad. So there was a lot of abuse I witnessed. And there were also emotional abuse that I had personally experienced. So I continued moving on with my life, like I mentioned earlier, but it caught up to me at one point, and that was when I was in my mid to late 30s, approaching 40s. And so that was the beginning of my healing journey, is that I needed to no longer ignore these things. I no longer need to pretend they didn't happen. I needed to do something about it because it was affecting me in a way where I was I was becoming not like myself. And the way I started to view the world, the way I viewed myself are changing as those things are coming up. And so all of those things were coming up to the surface. And then all of the other things I was asking myself also were simultaneously coming up to the surface. So that's when I started to really pay attention to what am I going to do with all of these? I mean, also during that time, I severed my relationship with my father. He did something that was very hurtful to me. And I told myself, I will never forgive this man, or I will never ever call him my father. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. And
That sounds like a really difficult time.
yes, absolutely. It was. And so when I severed that relationship with my father, it was around the same time also that a lot of trauma were coming up. That pushed me to go ahead and go on to this healing journey. And from there, I started just turning inwards. I started really sitting with my thoughts, sitting with my emotions. And that is also the same time I discovered meditation. It was in 2018 when I first meditated, and I thought it was just something all the cool people did.
Yeah, we're so cool. We do meditation.
And so I started with a number of apps to just guide me how to do it because I didn't know how. But then I was starting to read things on how to really address suppressed emotions. One thing led to another. So I started meditating. That was life-changing for me. I learned how to really sit, you know, quietly and turn inwards and really process some of these emotions that were coming up. And I've never felt so much peace and calm. And I loved it so much that I continued doing it. It was very, very much of a religious practice to me that I do it every single day. And the more that I did it, the more my equanimity muscle got stronger. And so I continued doing that. And then it led me to multiple teachers that I started listening and following through social media or documentaries I watched or other things that were coming to me in my sphere where I believe I was being guided onto what the next step is. What's the next step? So I was presented with a number of different teachers that were resonating with me, and I believe I was being guided to know the steps of this journey that I embarked myself on because I didn't have any coach or personal mentor at the time. I didn't know how to go from here. Where do I go from here? Right. So I just did it on my own with the trust and, with full faith and trust as to, I know I'm gonna go somewhere, but I, I don't know how to do this, but somehow I know I am being guided. So I discovered Joe Dispenza. I discovered a lot of energy healing teachers. And so from meditation, I started learning about energy medicine and I started learning it to become also a practitioner in energy medicine. I was very much involved with this concept that I began to study it myself and then I did. And so I became a certified energy healing practitioner and I experienced it as well. And there are some things that are unexplainable to me, but I know it has shifted me in some way or form because it was helping me as I was on this process. So I continued on with that and I did energy healing practice for a little bit. And then I continued to do other modalities. I got into breath work. That too was a very good modality that helped me process some of the emotions that were coming up. I did the energy healing, I did the meditation. I became very interested in yoga, which is one of, another modality that gets you back into your body, it's a beautiful thing. It's a lot of the somatic practices I began to really dive deep into because I was getting results. I was getting some of the things that were helping me in some way. And I knew that it was one of the steps that is going to ultimately lead me to the ultimate result I was looking for. So it was then I continued to fun. Before I continue, the journey that I'm sharing is a lot of detours, a lot of twists and turns. It is not a linear path. And and I'm sure this is true for some of the listeners too, because if you've ever been on this kind of journey yourself, you will experience so many synchronicities, so many teachers along the way. Sometimes you go towards one direction and then back on the same path again, only to find more people that are involved in the same modalities or in the same kind of healing practices that you're involved in. So I shared this because my journey has been not linear, but a lot of the things that I've discovered along the way actually is key to me getting into that direction where I needed to be. So I
Absolutely.
yes. So
And
I
I'm
was
sure a lot of people out there are probably experiencing something quite similar. Most of the healer didn't just wake up and say, okay, that's it. Today is the day I'm going to become a healer, right? It doesn't happen like that. It gradually happen by first you go experience something or you stumble upon it, right? Going to a yoga class, for example, some of my participants in my yoga class never done the Tibetan bow style healing or never experienced a sound bath before until I introduced it to my class, partially, not intentionally, right? At the beginning, because I don't know who's in the room and are they ready for this, right? So that person all of a sudden like, wow, I didn't know I like that so much, right? What was that? And you want to know more. And you didn't wake up and then intentionally, I'm gonna discover this new way of healing today by showing up at a yoga class. It's never like that. It's never intention. And that's the way life actually unfolding new journey or new path or new ideas to us. I think that's quite amazing, right? I mean, and I'm really glad that you share all your little detours of how you actually becoming the person you are today, because it's never a straight road to get to where you want to be. I mean, every single individual that walked this earth, human being, is never a straight road. Don't you agree?
I agree absolutely.
It's like life is like, let's go on this twist and turn. Some people can even call it like, a drama, right? It's like you're watching a drama show. Unless you enlighten one, then you probably know exactly where you want to go, and then you just go at it. And some people, maybe they do know, but things just doesn't really turn out the way they want to be. So they have to take a detour because, things happen. So I'll let you get back. That is just a life. And I really, really glad that you brought that up.
Yes. And so along the way too, like I said, I continuously met new people that either introduced me to a new modality or introduced me to more new teachers whom I'm going to learn from. So at the same time, some of my old friendships that were not resonating with me were also falling away. So when you start to become another person, when you leave behind certain parts of your past, new people will come into your life that will be supporting you in this becoming of a new person that you're becoming, right? A
Mhm.
new person that you're becoming. And so I've also lost some friends along the way.
Different chapter.
Yes, exactly. And I think when you are on a path of becoming, a higher, greater version of yourself, new people will come in to support you in that path. And so I share that because not only have I met new teachers, I've also met new friends, new people in my life that are guiding me towards that journey that I'm on, and people who are also in that similar journey. It's almost as if like a community that you suddenly have when you are on a healing journey. But anyway, going back to the breath work and the meditation, all of those yoga and energy healing, sound bath, I've also been exposed to. A lot of those really are helpful tools. There is no one better tool than the other. I think what I've learned from my journey so far is that be open to trying new things, because one may work better for you than the other modality. And not because breath work for me doesn't mean that it will have the same impact or effect on you, right? So I'm a big proponent of being open and trying things and see what works the best for you. So I did that. And then along the way, I continued. I was very interested in the wellness field. I also changed my diet. I became vegan during that time. There was just this calling, or perhaps more than a preference, but more of a spiritual calling for me to clean my diet, which I did. And so I did that. I changed my diet. I did a lot of other things to also get in touch with my body as well as deepen my spirituality. All of those are happening simultaneously. And, I studied wellness counseling, got certified as certified wellness practitioner, and it didn't even stop there. I continued on that journey that I was sharing to you. And then I discovered hypnotherapy along the way. So all of the work that I have done were good, but like peeling an onion, right? Were layers and layers and layers of wounding and past trauma. Some of them you have to continuously work on. And so when I found hypnotherapy, this issue that one particular issue that I had, that I was dealing with my father, as I mentioned to you earlier, that was a big wounding for me. And that was when I discovered hypnotherapy, and I I actually cleared that issue where I had so much anger and resentment. And remember, I told you, I mentioned earlier, I don't think I'm ever going to forgive this person. And I am no longer calling him my father. To me, he's as good as dead. That's how hurt and how angry I was. I learned the lesson of forgiveness. I actually cleared those emotions from hypnotherapy. It was one of those breakthroughs for me. I couldn't believe how much more of that energy brought back into my field where those emotions were released. So when I had that experience, I thought to myself, wow, this is amazing. I need to learn how to do this so I can help others. Now, what if you've noticed there's a pattern here, right? When I experience something of a breakthrough and I experience something so miraculous and so effective, I am on my way to learning that so I can actually do it myself and help others. So that's what I did. That was my introduction to hypnotherapy.
Oh
But
yeah, I'm right there with you too. When you get so excited about the transformation, and you just like, wow, how can I go deeper? How can I do this for other people too, not just for me, right? Because that's the way we improve ourselves, by learning, experiencing sometimes, right? And if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you, how did you forgive your father? What makes you decided that, okay, I'm going to forgive so I can move forward? Like what exactly happened that, or how did you do it? What is the process that help you forgive someone that you have such a strong emotion, negative emotion toward?
How fun. It was not easy.
That's why I have to ask.
It was a long process. It was a long process. It was okay. When you asked me what made me forgive, it was the realization that forgiveness is really about releasing the other person. It doesn't mean that you actually ignore the fact that something had happened. Okay. Things happen, and that's just a fact. But if you're harboring feelings of anger and resentment and unforgiveness, it is not about the person anymore. It's about how it's affecting you on a deeper level, in a mental level, cellular level. All of your being is using all of that energy to harbor those negative emotions. And I didn't realize that until one of the teachers, I don't even know who, but when I heard about what forgiveness really is what you do for yourself and not something you do for the wrongdoing that someone had done to you, all of a sudden something clicked within me that I was holding on to something that was not serving me. And sometimes people actually have this identity that they form within themselves, and they hold on to that along with those feelings, and it becomes part of that their identity that, I am someone who hates my father and I'm never going to forgive him. And so those things, that identity that I had carried for so long was something that was not only it wasn't serving me, but it was actually taking so much of my energy rather than having that energy be used for other purposes such as healing and, repair and everything else that could be used towards the good of your entire system, right? So what I realize about forgiveness is that it's something that I do for myself. And it's not about the person who wronged me. But it took years. It took years on. And there was a lot of attempts to do that. But in the previous years, I didn't even want to entertain that idea. That's how angry I was. And it was to a point where I said to my kids, they don't have a grandfather, he's dead. That's how angry I was. But it was such a beautiful feeling when I finally got to that point where all of those emotions, those negative emotions were released. There was also this practice that I did. It's called Ho'oponopono. I don't know if you are familiar with that. It's a Hawaiian practice of forgiveness, and I think a component of that is forgiveness, but I practiced that too. It contributed to how I was able to forgive. But a lot of it was the processing of the emotions that I had, and with the help of my hypnotherapist as well. And one particular teacher that really described to me what forgiveness was about. So it was a culmination of different things. And it got me to a point where I can remember the event, I can remember what happened, but there was no more trigger to that emotion. It was just a memory now to me. To answer that question you have for me earlier, it was a long process, but I ultimately got there.
Yes, that's is such a journey. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes. Yes.
I hope it's not a little too triggering for you to talk about this topic, because I know we prior to this recording of this episode, we have talked about, we tap into this a little bit, but I asked you, please, no, hold that thought. You're gonna share that in the episode. Don't give it all up. Remember I said that, and now I'm trying to remember, okay, what else did I want you to share? That's why I asked you to just don't give me all today, because I would like you to share more in the episode.
Yeah. And the beauty of it, Fawn, is that I can talk about it now with so much compassion and so much gratitude for the experience. Before, when somebody asked me about this, I would be triggered in an instant. Now I can share the story and it doesn't have any effect on me, other than, of course, being grateful for this experience, because I would have not known the lesson of forgiveness had I not experienced this event, right? And so I would say my father was also one of my greatest teachers in this life experience. He taught me
Oh,
the
yes.
forgiveness, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes. I totally agree because a lot of time when people are talking about soulmates, right? The definition of soulmates to a lot of people is actually someone who like, oh my gosh, you're a vegetarian too. I'm a vegetarian, right? And you think, oh my gosh, this person is a soulmate, right? And or like, oh my gosh, this person finished my sentence for me. This person know exactly what I'm thinking and what I'm about to say. That is my soulmate. No, but the true meaning of soulmates is actually someone who is there to help you grow into your full potential, your true self that you are actually come to earth to be, which is someone who trigger you. You don't want like the same undeveloped version of yourself, like multiplies all over the world, right? You just want one and maybe be done, unless you already amazingly genius or whatever, then maybe you want those. But a lot of people who are quite humble, they would not say, okay, I want like 10 of me out there, right? So, so yes, this is the journey of life that we are here to learn. So I want to invite the listener there, whether you agree with us or not, with the definition of the soulmate that we just, or I just talked about, is I've learned this from a teacher as well, that, because I had the understanding of the soulmate, like, oh my gosh, this is my soulmate because everything we do is so like, we've been together so well. But now that I learn, oh my gosh, this is so true. The soulmate is someone who's actually help you rise, help you learn to be a better person, be the better version, or come into the best version of yourself, whatever that is to the individual. That is a real soulmate. So maybe your father is actually the soulmate definition. And one individual can have more than one soulmates, right? In this lifetime, it depending on what your journey is really. So since you brought us on this topic of forgiveness, I'm gonna have to ask you before we close up episode for this episode at least,
yeah.
is how how or what do you recommend people to do as a baby step to starting to maybe forgive themselves for even judging themselves, like if they forget the key multiple times in 1 week, or forget where they put something, or forget to call someone. It's Easter today. Maybe you forgot to call your mom because you know what? You have a project that you have to finish and your mind just focus on the project instead of your family. So you're starting to judge yourself. Oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot. How did I forget to call my mom? It's Easter.
Yeah, I would just advise the listeners to be gentle to yourself, because the more that you beat yourself up, the more that you are actually getting yourself to not serve your highest and greatest potential, right? The person that you could be. A lot of us have negative self-talk. A lot of my clients actually struggle with negative self-talk, and a lot of times it's also happening outside of their conscious awareness. It is something as an automatic behavior that many people experience, just saying things that are unkind to themselves is a habit that is hard to break for many people. So when that thing happens, it's a cycle that continues to happen, and people do not realize that what they keep repeating, saying to themselves, it becomes ingrained, and it becomes then not only a behavior but also a personality that they have. So when those things happen, I would invite the listeners to be kind to themselves and to notice and to recognize that this is an unkind thing that I say to myself. This is something that I wouldn't say to a friend, when people say I'm stupid, or my God, I can't believe I did that. How could I be so, whatever, lazy or whatever it is, right? That are so unkind. I would ask them to really pay attention and recognize that it's happening. And once they do that, they can reframe, and they can actually catch themselves to reframe it and say it in a different way, not only in a more positive way, but also catch themselves saying more kind things towards themselves. A lot of times self-forgiveness isn't even necessary when you do those things. Thing that you actually need to do is to just break that habit, because and it's hard. A lot of the clients I have, it's ingrained in, and it's something that I help my clients with, the way their mind has been programmed. And so we can address that and rewire that so that it doesn't keep happening as an automatic pattern or behavior.
Do you have a simple example that you could share of the rewiring quickly? Like someone could, since the name of the show is One Mindful Minute, is
Sure.
there a quick 1 or 2 minutes that someone could do to rewire themselves after they call themselves such an idiot?
Yeah. Yeah. So what I would recommend is, if you're doing this on your own, right? You could do that by using the power of mantras. So, or affirmations, right? So when you catch yourself, immediately after you catch yourself saying something unkind to yourself, pause. Okay. Pause for a minute, one mindful minute, right? Pause and ask yourself, is this true? Is this helpful? And is this supporting me in becoming a better version of myself, right? Ask those three questions. Now, if the answer is no in all three of those questions, then sit and just take a couple breaths. Really think about how you view yourself, and use one of the mantras that or affirmations that they already have, and actually just say that to themselves, either with their eyes closed or eyes open. And you have to actually feel what you're saying, because even if you recite mantras all day long, if you don't pair it with an elevated emotion in terms of truly getting in touch with the truth of what you're saying, then it's not going to work, right? So what I would teach my clients, and I would encourage the listeners here, is to actually just go ahead and pause, take a few deep breaths, and rewire that. And it may not sound too obvious, but the more you do it, the more you catch yourself, the more that you shift that
The
unkind.
awareness.
Yeah. Yeah. It strengthens your unconscious mind, as well as your conscious mind are going to get on board with what it is that you're trying to change. But it may need to be done multiple times, because repetition is key when you're trying to rewire a belief, a habit, or whatever it is that you're trying to do. But the first step is awareness. The first step is recognizing that it is something that you want to change, because you can't change what you can't acknowledge that it's a problem,
Exactly.
right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
That is very true. You cannot change if you can't recognize it from the beginning anyway.
Yeah.
That is so true. Thank you so much, Pam. Is there anything that you like to add before we wrap up this episode?
Yeah. So I shared my journey with you, right? In terms of how I get to where I am today. And the greatest lesson that I can share and the greatest life advice, if I may share that to our listeners, is allow yourself to be supported. Allow yourself to actually ask the help or support of those people that are on a similar journey with you. Or if you admire someone who've been on this journey or currently still going on this journey, everybody's still on a journey, right? No
Oh
one's
my
ever
gosh, every day.
exactly.
Everyone and every day.
Yes. I had hoped in the beginning that I had like a strong support system when I was doing this and navigating it all by myself. I mean, I was able to do it all by myself, but life would have been so much simpler and easier had had I had these support, and sometimes not everyone are able to afford paying for a coach or a mentor or a teacher, but there are a number of resources out there where they can study what it is that a teacher is sharing, and if it resonates with them, then go ahead and try out those lessons or those tips that they are offering, and find people also within that community to help you on your journey, because we thrive in community. We actually heal together in community, right? So you cannot do this all by yourself, all alone. As I mentioned earlier on my journey, I met so many people, so many teachers along the way, so many new people. So one thing I would like to share is allow yourself to be supported and get the help and the support you need. It makes this journey so much more easier.
Yes, I agree. I agree. We cannot rise by ourselves.
Exactly.
In order for us to go further, we need someone, because humans are not meant to be doing things by ourselves. We are created to be in a community,
Yeah.
especially a supportive community. So choose your supports wisely. Like a lot of teachers or coaches out there, they always tell you that if you hang out with five losers, you'll be number six, right? So if you hang out with five millionaires, you'll be number six. So it goes to all the direction of whoever you choose to be in the circle with. So thank you, Pam, for your wisdom, your knowledge, and your willingness to share the experience, such a personal experience in your family, with your father, and that you have overcome. Very inspiring. I hope the listener out there who come across this show can actually pick up something that is valuable, if not many things, because we share so many things in this episode already. And not to mention our Friday Live that we have been doing together on Instagram. We have shared so many nuggets on the live and also in the previous episodes that I have done with other guests as well. So I want to invite you, if you enjoy this show, you find this show valuable, please subscribe or share, share the episode and the channel with your friends, your peers, your family, whoever you think that will benefit from our shows. We welcome your comments, your questions. If you have any questions for Pam, feel free to reach out to her. I will link her website and Instagram so you can reach out to her directly as well. If not, here under the comments in the YouTube channel, or however you like to connect with us, Instagram, LinkedIn, your choice. We are all over the place. So we love to hear from you, and we appreciate you tuning in today. We look forward to connect with you again in our next episode. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode and inspired to take the next step in your wellness journey to building more resilient and effective days at home and at work. I want to invite you to get in touch with me to learn more about the customized wellness programs that could benefit your team, your organization, whether it be retreats, workshops, 21-day meditation challenge, you name it. Let us collaborate to supercharge your well-being today.